of it.
Dave said that number 64%. Miles Sanders at least 64% of the snaps in 5 of his first 6 games. He also averaged 9.5 carries per game and scored 0 touchdowns. His fantasy value was wholly dependent on his role in the passing game. We haven't seen the Eagles use Boston Scott at all in the passing game. I think if they get behind, it's going to be more Kenneth Gainwell with him throwing to them. If they're ahead, I'm not 100% if it's Scott or if it's Howard. I'm not 100% they're going to run the ball with their running backs more than 10 times. I'd like to stay away from the Eagles running backs. I view this a lot like the Ravens. There's 3 guys there. One of them might score. I don't know who it's going to be.
Bite your tongue about not using him in the pass game. He had the only target of the running backs last week. Did not have a catch. Yes, we'll see if they use him in the passing game. That's obviously going to be important. I just think that this Chargers run defense, I know they're talking about them getting better and getting healthier. They still gave up the touchdown last week to Damian Harris, and we know that at least for the 2 games since the Tampa Bay game, when Nick Sirianni was basically laughed off the field by the Eagles crowd, they've tried to run the ball a little bit more. Miles Sanders would have had a good game against the Raiders. I'm convinced of that. And then we saw last week against the Lions. Different setup, different matchup, obviously. But I do think Boston Scott's got an opportunity here. So I would side with Dave in that conversation about Boston Scott. Keith, you got Ryan Tannehill as a sit. We know the big story with the Titans. No Derrick Henry. Dave, you like Jeremy McNichols. We'll have a quick conversation about the Titans running backs in a second. But in terms of Ryan Tannehill, you don't expect more on his plate. Julio Jones might be back. Don't trust him this week?
He's not been the same guy from an efficiency standpoint. Just a 3.8% touchdown rate. He's been at least 6. He's 2 years in Tennessee, just 7.2 yards per attempt. He's been about 9 his 2 years in Tennessee. And I don't think the loss of Derrick Henry is going to make him a more efficient passer, especially against this Rams defense. I'd like to stay away.
But one of the things that Tannehill can do is go to Jeremy McNichols, and we've seen it already this year. McNichols has played more in passing downs than Derrick Henry. That's how the Titans got around overusing Derrick Henry. Ha, ha, ha. They still did it. And I think that that's going to be part of their offense that they incorporate moving forward is leaning on those short area passes. He's been good in the screen game. The blocking is good for him. He's actually not a slug. He's somebody who could actually evolve into being a much bigger part of that Tennessee run game moving forward.
And one of Heath's answers in Name That Player on Wednesday. So, Dave, let's take a look at your sits
I beat
here.
him to that one, by the way, when I was watching at home.
Let's look at your sits here. And James Conner's been very good for fantasy managers. It's obviously been fluky from the extent of finding the end zone. So you're expecting him maybe not to score in this matchup against 49ers?
Dude, he could score. I'm just not sure if he's even going to get 10 carries in the game. And if he gets 10 carries, what does that mean? Does it mean 30 yards, 40 yards? He's going to come under 10 non-PPR points no matter how you slice it, unless he gets 2 touchdowns like he did last week. Chase Edmonds has started to play more. Edmonds actually played more 10 yards closer to the goal line than Conner did last week. That's a development that makes me feel good about Edmonds, who's still dealing with the shoulder injury. But I think the Cardinals have to lean on their run game this week. Edmonds is the one who's been playing more. I think Conner is a very risky play.
Okay, we'll find out again. Kyler Murray is banged up. DeAndre Hopkins is banged up. A.J. Green not expected to play after being placed on the reserve COVID-19 list. The sits for me, Adrian Peterson is the one that, like I said, earlier this week, I don't really have much faith. I don't really want to buy into a 36-year-old running back who's been on the street through the first 8 weeks of the season. I hope he comes in and does well in place of Derrick Henry. But like Dave said, I think we're going to see a little bit more of Jeremy McNichols, not just in the passing game, but also carrying the ball a little bit. And we'll find out if Peterson's even better than Deontay Foreman. I know that sounds funny to say, but you do know that they brought in 2 guys, and Foreman has a little bit of a tie to the team already. So we'll see if he gets the first opportunity, maybe until Peterson is ready to go.